Me and my late wife have written a book about our house and its connection to the Underground Railroad network that moved tens of thousands of slaves out of the South up to Canada and freedom. Um, my friend, we did two YouTube videos yesterday, and I was going to do another one, but I entirely forgot what I was supposed to do a YouTube video on, what topic, and so I went to bed. But this morning I woke up and Carl Kama, my buddy from high school, who is down in Florida and just put a great video of one of the SpaceX rocket launches down there. And he asked for more details on what we found in this historic house, even beyond the Underground Railroad Station type things. And so, yes, thank you for refreshing my memory. Usually I rely on Google. That's my crutch these days for my COVID brain, or whatever you want to call it. Maybe it's age, I don't know. But in any event, my late wife and I have written a book entitled More Than Likely, Underground Railroad Station, Fishkill, 12 Robinson Street. And I went into the details on an earlier video on the technical problems people have trying to establish themselves as a underground railroad, which is a ridiculous, strict requirement that can't be met because of the secretive nature back then of the Underground Railroad. And they weren't being secret just like for fun, is because it was a serious crime under federal and southern states' laws. And the federal law was basically the notorious Dred Scott Supreme Court decision, which said once a slave, always a slave. You can move to the north, but you're still a slave, and fugitive slave hunters would come up from the south and grab anybody they felt like and drag them back there. But anyhow, that's off the topic for the question Carl was asking. So yes, Carl, we had a contractor we used for 20 years. He retired, and I think he came a little early this year, did a little work, but basically he's done. He's doing some other work, and but he's basically retired, and he's had enough of this house after 20 years. I mean, he rebuilt it twice. So the first time he rebuilt it, we had the kitchen done. And, like you said, you never know what you're going to find in these walls when you open them up. It's like, okay, it's going to cost this much, the project. But when you open that wall, you never know what you're going to find in a house that's from 1841. So anyhow, in the kitchen wall, we found that the old school insulation from back in the day, I guess the early 1900s, was newspapers. So we found not ancient, but old Poughkeepsie Journal newspapers packed into the space between the outdoor wall and the indoor wall in the kitchen. And let me tell you, it wasn't very effective, but very interesting to find. And, he put the standard packets in there after that, the pink stuff. And same thing in the bathroom. And he packed that too with the pink stuff. And, the only place we never really got to do work on with Ed was the living room. And my sister-in-law, Stacy, saved us a fortune. She discovered this special wallpaper. It was all plaster walls in this house. And a lot of it's been replaced now by wallboard, which is much better than plaster. We know plaster from living in the city in a brownstone apartment that is dated to around the same time as this place. And in any event, she found this wallpaper that's designed to go over plaster walls and be painted. So back in 2004, 2005, when we first moved in here, she showed up like 5 rolls of this stuff, and up it went. And in a few hours, we had the living room done for like, I don't know, $30, $40. And anyhow, my cat is here, Percy. He's my technical assistant. He's also an empath. But whatchamacallit? By the way, my other cat, his sister, is becoming aware. She's staring at pictures now and looking at a reflection. I think she's evolving into a new form of life. I don't know. We'll see. But anyhow, yeah, so we did that right over the plaster, and the previous owners were taking things down for some reason. They were preservationists, but you could see like layers and layers of old wallpaper. It was very interesting. I know when they redid the Bardavon Theater in Poughkeepsie, they left a piece of the ceiling as it was, and you could see how intricate the work was on the ceiling back when they built the place 100 years ago, whatever. But yeah, so we just put up the wallpaper, and that was it. That's done. It's been up here. It looks new, except where a cat occasionally decided to take a scratch at it, you know. But other than that, it looks pretty good. And it'll be kind of hard to do any work on it now because we've got some major bookcases in here. And frankly, it'll take Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno to move these books off the shelves and move the bookcases out of the way so that the contractor can get in there and do the work. But anyhow, again, now we also found bottles, and we found out that through the town historian that this was an apothecary did live here. Last name Smith, no relation to Smith Brothers Cough Drops, and that's where all the bottles came from, and you can see the labels on them, and some have Main Street Fishkill on them, and they're not all medicine or anything. There's like stuff at hair and cologne, and if the bottles don't happen to have a label, they also look pretty beautiful. They really did a great job with bottles in those days, not like your 2-liter Coke or Pepsi bottles we see today. These were designed really, and I've got a couple of books on antique bottles, and they can actually, by looking at the design of the bottle, tell what period of time they were created in. And we know a little about glasswork. We have the Hudson Valley Beach Glass factory down in Beacon, and they're terrific. You used to be, I haven't been in there in a long time, but you used to be able to walk in there and they'd do a demonstration on how to blow glass right there, then and there. And what we purchased there was a few, they had these glass cats, like as if they were curled up. And every time one of our cats passed away, we picked up one that looked like the cat, So I got a tuxedo-looking glass cat up there. I got a calico and something else. Another black cat. Yeah, black one. And so we've got the antique bottles, and we cleaned it up, and I went on the internet and said that this, generally speaking, it's the inside of the bottle that needs to be cleaned, and you put in denture powder and water and let it stand overnight, and then rinse it out. Okay, after I did that to 50 bottles. I then read somewhere else that you shouldn't do anything with those bottles because you don't know if there was poison in there. Anyhow, I'm alive, so I dodged that bullet. But be careful if you're cleaning up antique bottles. And they look beautiful once you do that, too. They got a bit of a shine. They still look old, but they have about a bit of luster to them. We also have here, before I get to the Underground Railroad stuff, Jeri is somehow ended up with all the heirloom ancestral furniture from her family, going back a couple of generations or more. We've got a rocket chair from her, I think her great-great-grandmother, who didn't believe in banks and shoved cash in mattresses and stuff. and Jeri's Uncle Charlie and Aunt Sissy needed cash one day, so they took the rocker, which is over that way, and opened it up. And guess what? They did find some cash. Unbelievable. Talk about a piggy bank. We got a chair over here that Jeri's mom had upholstered for us, but I had to have reupholstered. I used, by the way, if you're looking for renovation, restoration work, upholstery, carpentry, any kind of antique restoration, right here in Fishkill on Main Street, across Route 9, is Kevin Kaiser. Okay, really highly recommend him. Fair prices. Don't rush him. He's a perfectionist. The job is great. For instance, he did an antique sewing machine. I can't quite make out it's so old, I can't quite make out the brand name. I can't even make out if it's English, in fact. It looked maybe Greek, I don't know. It could be Singer and just some of the letters disintegrated, I don't know. And it's on top of Jeri's sewing table, which had my late wife, and she had been in pieces. And I always said, we want to get rid of this? And no, keep it. Well, before Jeri departed across the Rainbow Bridge to the other world, and she's been back from there occasionally, I'll have you know, she wanted this to be a happy house again, which meant putting work back into the house. It had been neglected due to her illness and other things. And so I had Kevin Kaiser come in, and I thought it was a magazine rack. He said, no, this is a sewing table. So he restored that, reasonably priced. And while I was in the basement one day, I noticed there was a sewing machine on the side. And again, all this stuff, Jeri didn't just pick it up. This is from family members. And somehow we ended up with them. And I'm the curator now of the Wagner, family heirlooms. And I'm and the Burns. That's the other side of the family. Related to Robert Burns. And by the way, when we went to Scotland and would go up to a Scot person and a tour guide or whatever and say, my wife is related to Robert Burns, they just yawn at you because every American that goes there says that. And it gets tiresome to them after a while. Everyone's related to Robert Burns, the poet. But in any case, he did the sewing table, and he freshened up he fixed up the sewing machine itself. And this is something I was going to just spray paint brown. That's me. But I said, no, better get Kevin Kaiser in here. He also restored another chair over there that had never been restored, and it was covered in cloth, a throw cloth. It really looked ugly. Now it looks beautiful. It really looks beautiful. And he also I also found this table that a jade plant had been sitting on, and I took a careful look at it. And it was an Asian table, and had an intricate Asian motif on top. And so again, it was all beaten up and fading. And I called Kevin in. He did it. He told me that it wasn't wood. It was actually paper mache, believe it or not. And he actually brought back the imagery on the sides and on the top of the table, the Asian motifs. And, we got some other stuff around here also from the Met. Jeri worked at the Met for 34 years, the Met Museum, Metropolitan Museum of Art, as it used to be called. And she did their licensing there. And, they discard a lot of stuff that is quite valuable, and they're okay if Jeri would ask, can I take this? And they say, yeah, sure, go ahead. And they give her a pass to get it out of here. You can't just walk out of the Met with a piece of furniture. Security would be all over you. But we got a Renaissance chair to my right that's made out of leather and wood, of course. And then over here we have a plant stand that's beautiful. Again, it's Renaissance in nature. It's wood. It's got slots. What else do we have here? In the hallway, we've got a large photograph. Oh, very large. I mean, I'm talking big, black and white, of a German city. And it looks really cool. Black and white, dark, really Gothic looking. And then, which a lot of people have no idea what they are. she turned them into a spice rack. She took a section of the because she worked in the image library. They had a card catalog, bunch of card catalogs in there. She grabbed one of them, and some of her co-workers grabbed the others. And that was the Google back in the day, the card catalog that you went to in the library and looked through the cards to find what you were looking for. Like the Chinese, I forget what they're called, abacus was the calculator back then. Okay. Anyhow, we have that in the kitchen, and she stored her spices in there and candles and other things. And anyhow, we got quite a few other things around here from the Met and from Jeri's family, and stuff we've collected along the way also. And the whole idea behind collecting is, don't worry about whether it's a fake or not a fake. If you like it, get it, put it up on the wall. If it turns out to be a good investment, great. You make a little money. As it turns out, we really didn't buy for investment purposes. We bought because we like the stuff, I have no intention of selling any of it. And, the other thing Jeri brought back, when they went digital, all these beautiful, on cardboard, very thin cardboard, almost, very thick paper even, a cross between paper and cardboard, images of their collection. And on the back, notes on where it was from, who found the piece, like a piece of pottery, and you'd see the famous names, Howard Carter. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who discovered all the stuff in Troy and the capital of Mycenae. I saw his house in Athens with Jeri. It's now the coin museum there. I didn't take a picture. Why? I don't know. One of the most famous archaeologists around, even though he was very rudimentary and very destructive in his techniques. But I've got a collection of that, and mostly Greek and Roman. Someone else grabbed all the Egyptian. I got some Chinese in there, and there is some Egyptian, some is good, And what else do we have? We have a daguerreotype copy, photograph of John Quincy Adams from the Met. And we also have from the Adirondack Museum, which has another name for some reason these days, a famous photograph of the hiker reaching the top of Mount Marcy, the tallest peak in New York State. And instead of looking at the view, he's turned around to help the other hiker behind him up. That's kind of like a good symbol there, helps up the next person up, And that's from the Adirondack Museum. I forgot who the photographer was, well known. And we also have from the Met, from the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, a photograph of Menkaure and his queen, he's one of the great pharaohs. He was the last of the great pyramids. There were other pyramids before and after that, but he was the last of the great pyramids. They're all clustered there in Giza. And they had a show at the Met on the Old Kingdom, which is the pyramid time. There's several kingdoms: Old Kingdom, Intermediate, and then New Kingdom, and in between there's Middle Kingdom and other intermediate, and then you get into the Persian period, the Greek, the Roman, etc. But I turn a corner, and there, life size is the pharaoh and his queen. And the curator on the audio tape that I was listening to said it was either his mother or his sister, and either one could have been his queen. But it was life size, and it was beautiful looking. And I was able to purchase, a copy of it, a copy of the photograph of it from the, Boston Museum of Fine Arts, MFA, Boston. Anyhow, let's get to the Underground Railroad. We talked about the bottles, and there's also marbles. If you're digging around the garden, you're going to find marbles, the kind the kids played with from the 1800s. Very beautiful looking glass marbles. Yeah, very nice. But in the Underground Railroad stuff is the attic, first of all. Yes, Carl, we have an attic. It used to be, in our opinion, a hideaway. It's hidden. The entrance is hidden in the back of a closet, a little door, and you go in, and the wood is not contemporary wood. If you've been to a sawmill museum, there's one in Western New York, the Western Catskills in Delaware County. It's a museum and sawmill, and you can see the old style of wood. It's not as it's more rough than today's wood, and so that's the whole flooring. Plus the rafters are ancient, and when I had my roof done a couple months ago, they had to shore up the rafters. That's because, they're 182 years old. And anyhow, yes, so that's a secret entrance in there. And we know a little about this stuff because, in Brooklyn Heights, that was a big Underground Railroad station. You had the famous abolitionist preacher there, Ward Beecher Stowe, whose sister, Harriet Beecher, I'm getting the names mixed up, I'm sorry, wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin, and her home is adjacent to Mark Twain's large home in Hartford, Connecticut. And while you're going to Mark Twain's, you might as well look in hers because you got to walk right by it after the visitor center. And so we have that, and it's got windows, and it could hold quite a few people in there. It runs the length of the house. And you would never know it's there because of the secret hidden door. And the other thing we have is down in the basement, and this is a classic thing also. We've seen this stuff like if you go to Salem, Massachusetts, go to the House of the Seven Gables, which is famous from the Nathaniel Hawthorne novel, and of the same name, and it was also a movie starring Vincent Price. The interior in the kitchen, the interior of the kitchen, there's a little entrance there, and it's a staircase, a spiral staircase up to a secret room. And in that case, they had the room set up very nicely. It was very comfortable looking. Here, I don't know if it was removed or what, but they're basically spaces. And so anyhow, down in the basement, you have the original fireplace, which is where they used to do the cooking, in the basement. That fireplace down there. My fireplaces are closed up right now because they're used as a venting for the furnace and the water heater. But whatchamacallit, if you look behind that fireplace, there's a brick alcove. Okay, what's that there for? The only thing that can be there is to hide people. Okay, so again, the Hudson Valley was one of the primary routes out of the South up to Canada. They went up through the Hudson Valley and stopped at Albany, and either went west from there to Buffalo and into Canada, or they went over to the further north to Lake Champlain, and boats would take them north to Canada. And the reason they headed to Canada, which is the terminology in those days, was the North Star. If you've ever been wondering what people mean by the North Star Club or whatever, they're referring to the exodus out of the South by fugitive slaves to freedom in Canada, the North Star. Follow the North Star. And that was it. It went right through here, and there's some interesting stories. They had a judge at FDR's. FDR's is the intellectual hub of the Hudson Valley, and it's on par with any kind of intellectualism you find in Manhattan. And they had a great thing on the atomic bomb, which their education director, Jeff Urban, wrapped up in 20 minutes, which was a 3-hour movie, and otherwise you'd have to read these 2 books that weighed about 50 pounds each. And he wrapped up the whole story in 20 minutes. But they also did a couple of programs on the Underground Railroad and slavery in general. And they brought in this judge. I forgot his name. Sorry, excuse me, COVID brain. But and the judge told the story of how this Southern family with their slaves took a boat to Manhattan because it was out of the South. It would be faster to get to New Orleans that way. When they got to the harbor, an African American worker came on board and said, "Do you want to be free?" And the family couldn't quite comprehend what that meant. And he explained, and they said, "Yes, absolutely." And they left the boat for another boat, and they escaped into New York City. And they remained there, protected by the abolitionist community. And sure enough, they were discovered, and they brought a case, and there were, I think, 2 cases. The federal case got dismissed because the family absconded. As soon as they got there, they were told, "Okay, you're here, nice seeing you, head north now, because they can grab you at any moment unless you get into Canada." And so the federal case got dismissed, if I remember correctly, and but the state brought a case, one of the southern states that they came from, claiming, property rights, and which they were considered, and they that was taken care of by raising money among the abolitionists in New York City to pay them what the value was of the slaves, okay? And that satisfied the slave owners, and they walked away, and the state was left there like, well, what are we doing here? The federal government's out of here, the slaves are out of here, and the slave owners are out of here. So they walked away too. And the case was never resolved. It just remained on the books uncompleted. And again, they had another time, the division of the National Park Service dedicated to the Underground Railroad. They had the director up here talking about the Underground Railroad and had some brochures and some fact sheets and stuff. There's a whole mess of information you can get, and there's a lot of people here that are experts on the Underground Railroad and that can direct you towards certain books and things. I found one book that's filled with fugitive slave ads. And my God, it's horrible what they say in these ads. He's lazy. He walks with a limp. He's deformed. Whatever. They weren't very nice about describing their so-called property and how much they're going to pay to get it back if you grab them. And that's why very few stayed around. They generally headed north to the North Star. And again, it went right through the Hudson Valley. And I won't go into the details I did in the other video, and it's in the book, the problems with identifying Underground Railroad stations, which have to be liberalized. You can't adhere to strict historical identification rules with the Underground Railroad because it was so secret, and it was so secret because you could be arrested under federal and southern state law and put away in prison for a very, very long time for harboring a slave. And if you were a slave, you were taken back, and you don't want to know what they did to them, okay? It was a very brutal thing. And if you want the details, please read the book, the 1619 Project, which traces the African-American experience from 1619 in the United States to the present. And every turn of the page, it's like a Dan Brown novel, except it's real and it's horrifying. Soldiers coming back from World War II, not allowed to use the bathroom, heroes. And then getting off at one stop, and because they're wearing an American uniform, they're beaten to death. It's crazy stuff, and it's all in this book, written by Nicole Hannah-something, and it's published by the New York Times. Sorry, author, I forgot the last name here. COVID brain again. It's early in the morning here. We're approaching the new year. And anyhow, let's end it at that. And Carl, I hope I answered some of your questions. I can keep going on. There's a lot of historic stuff here. But anyhow, that's the story. And Happy New Year. And let's make 2024 the year we all sat down and had a beer together instead of blowing each other up. Okay? See you later.